So we are joined by author. Chris, pronounce your last name again? Chris Maleo, who's here to tell us about his book, The Chairleader, Lead Without Limits, a story that focuses on leadership, trust, belief, and the will to never give up. Man, thank you so very much for being here today.
Thanks for having me. I got a gift for you, though.
Oh, right on. Thank you so much.
You can't talk about the book, and I can't not give it to you.
Yeah, man, that's so cool. Thank you.
Of course.
Okay, so tell us, what inspired you to write this book?
Well, it's an incredible true story. When I was 29 years old, I was hired to be a high school football coach at, hired to be a high school football coach at a really unique private school. And during that process, I was figuring out, who I was as a leader. But in the same time, I'd hired a young man with nonverbal cerebral palsy to coach football with me. And it was just such a beautiful story, and I felt like it needed to be shared with the world because it was so inspiring for what it did for my life, and it helped me improve as a husband, father, friend, brother, all those things. And I knew it'd benefit other people.
Okay, so that is absolutely impressive, and you also took the high school football team to #1 in the country, right?
We did, yes, we did.
Okay,
correct.
So man, that is amazing. Congratulations. So
Thank
what
you.
was different about your leadership approach?
Yeah, I think so much of it was just centrally focused on, believe it or not, because it doesn't really necessarily fall in line with football, which was love, right? We really loved our players, we loved the mission, we loved the school, the community, and so everything stemmed and was the foundation of it was stemmed from love.
Yeah.
And so it just made it really, really easy for us to be unselfish and treat each other with respect, and it was amazing what type of culture can grow from there.
It's interesting. So I used to help coach football, right, way back in the Pop Warner. I played Pop Warner football, and I would have to say that love is a huge part of football, right?
Yes, definitely.
Because I try to talk about football being the ultimate team sport because 11 players have to do an individual job, but all to come together to make one goal.
That's
right?
the beauty of it.
And it's beautiful,
Right.
and it's really hard.
Right.
And so if you don't love the guys you're with, you're going to have a hard time being successful, right?
No doubt, absolutely.
Yeah, so one of the most powerful parts of the story is hiring the coach you were talking about. So what impact did that decision have on the team's culture?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, really, if you think about it, like we talked a little bit about, like football by its very nature is like a very violent game, right? And I think a lot of these guys, they go into it and they had a different mindset of like, okay, we're violent, we're good players, we're physical, all those other things. And then they take a step back, and when you hire a young man with cerebral palsy, I think it allows you to have a higher level of appreciation for the things that you do have, for the privilege of the ability to walk, talk, speak, right? All those things. And they looked at the gifts that they had, and it allowed them to, one, deal with adversity better, one, lower their egos, two, I think have a little bit more compassion. And so I think as a program as a whole, it allowed us to become better people, which in turn allowed us to become better football players and a team.
I was just about to say that. When you become a better person, you're going to be better at all the other things that you do, right? You're going to work harder. You're going to have that much more respect for the situation. So you talk a lot about culture, and so how do you actually build a winning culture and not just talk about it, right? So how do you not just talk about it, you be about it?
For sure. I think it starts with standards like anything else, right? It's like everyone has some form of culture that they operate in, whether you run a family, a company, a business, you write a book or team. And so it always comes back to your standards. What are you allowing to happen? What are you permitting to happen? That's to me, those are your standards that you reflect. And as we built a culture within our football program, and as I've done it later on in business, like so much of it is related to the standards that we have and making sure that we constantly are either trying to meet them or go above them.
Yeah, absolutely. And what's the biggest lesson from the Chairleader that applies beyond sports, right, and into everyday life?
Yeah. So, I think about this a lot with, his name's Frankie Kanivi, the young man who's the subject of my book. He was born with nonverbal cerebral palsy. And so the umbilical cord was wrapped around his neck at birth. He was without oxygen for about 4 to 12 minutes. Oh. And so he didn't sign up for that, right? And so every single day, he wakes up and he goes to bed with nonverbal cerebral palsy. That is his circumstance. Yeah. But David, guys like you and I, we have the ability and the privilege every day to be able to change our circumstance. Like what a privilege that is. And so as I got to learn and grow with Frankie, I developed such a great appreciation that my circumstances don't dictate my attitude. My attitude dictates my circumstance.
Yeah, and you know what? That's actually really hard to actually put in practice. You know what I mean? Like it's easy to say that. It's actually harder to really, really put that into practice.
Absolutely.
And one of the great things that I was fortunate enough to have when growing up is my mom used to work for Goodwill Industries for years and years, and she helped folks with special needs find jobs and keep them.
Amazing.
Right? And so I grew up around these folks and I was beaten in my head. This is not something these folks ask for,
right?
And they have to triumph that every single day. And so this book is amazing, and I love the fact that that it applies so well to football. And like you're talking about, you're taking something that is so violent and you're making something beautiful out of it, right? That's impressive, man.
Yeah.
So where do we find your book?
You can go on Amazon. It's listed on Amazon. I have a website, chrismaleo.com, and also our company, getculturehealth.com. You can pull it off of there as well.
That's right. Chris Maleo.
David, pleasure to meet you.
Nice to meet you, man. Thank you so very much. Go out and get that book.